welcome back, everybody, to the Just One More Level podcast. I am your co-host, Christian.
And I am your co-host, John.
And today we played a little bit of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have done, this is technically the 5th Resident Evil game that we've covered now?
Yes. Fifth Resident Evil game.
I mean, sooner or later, we're just going to have the whole series under our belt here. So Resident Evil 4, they started making some major departures from the other Resident Evil games with this one. I hope all of our viewers know what Resident Evil is at this point, or seen at least one of our other videos about it. If you don't know, just the really, really simple rundown. There's a zombie outbreak in the world. You play some sort of character in the situation, and you need to survive, essentially. Every game boils down to that, right? The big difference between the other ones we covered and this one is this one starts to become more linear, a little bit less open, it feels like, and it became a lot more action-y than the other ones were. The other ones always had action elements to it, of course, but it was very heavy on the survival element, the limited ammo, the limited supplies, the puzzle solving. Whereas this one seems to be, I want to say, a bit of a downfall. In my personal opinion, this was
shooter.
Yeah. This was the beginning of the end of the golden age of Resident Evil IMO.
Yes. So in this game, you take control of Leon Kennedy, the protagonist from Resident Evil 2, and you are on a special mission from the president somehow, even though you were a rookie cop. In Resident Evil 2. You are on a special mission from the president to rescue his daughter. President's daughter has been captured or has gone missing.
Obviously, you would pick a rookie cop to do this job for you.
Right. But now I guess Leon has specialized training, credentials maybe from surviving Raccoon City. I'm not really sure. But anyway, you go to Europe and you're in Spain, I believe. Yes. Yeah, you're in Spain.
That sounds right.
Something like that. And you have these two police officers taking you out to this location where you're supposed to go start your mission to go find this person because somebody that looked like her was spotted in this rural Spanish community. So you show up here and it's a village, much like Resident Evil Village, which is an unofficial remake of this game. And you start your mission there by interrogating, and you quickly find yourself in another similar situation. That's what is unique about this game. This started the divergence in the Resident Evil plotline. Prior to this point, it had always been something directly influenced by Umbrella, something that had an Umbrella facility nearby. It was influenced by one of the viruses that they were working on. I don't know how this ties into it, but Resident Evil games after this point usually would have some kind of unique threat. Gone was Raccoon City. It has been literally obliterated by nuclear weapons, and they started globetrotting in Resident Evil, taking place at different places all over the world. So what you're fighting is some sort of parasite, I believe, the Las Plagas, which is just Spanish for the plague. So some kind of parasite that alters a person, but not so much that they become literal mindless zombies. They just become really aggressive and real murdery. Like everyone that you meet just wants to kill you on sight for no reason.
And for some reason, I mean, you find some notes where they have been directed to attack the American that's invading, essentially. So they have a purpose, whatever that may be, for attacking you specifically, and they don't seem to really go after each other that much. You find a few dead bodies laying about here and there with no real explanation for why they were killed, but there will be large groups of people all attacking you at the same time, and they're not fighting each other. So while they are murdery, they seem to be focused more on you. So it seems like there's some unseen hand at least kind of guiding these people to do what they're doing.
It's pretty culty. There's some kind of cult thing going on because very early in the game, you get a clue about a church, and then a bell starts to ring, and everybody starts rushing into this church that you don't get access to right away. You have to do a little bit of sidestepping, like go around it and go into some different buildings and things. All this mechanic. If you're watching this right now, you might be seeing on screen Leon video chatting with some kind of agent somewhere. I think this mechanic is pretty silly, but not for any good reason.
Right.
It's just because Leon just pulls out a phone. He just pulls out a cell phone. He puts it up to his ear, and then in the cutscene, you are front facing video chatting
I
with
wonder
someone.
because Metal Gear, obviously, large Japanese series, same as Resident
Okay.
Evil, and they
Yeah.
did the video chatting thing since pretty
Okay.
early on in the series. So I wonder if that's kind of where that came from. They were just
Okay.
like, "Hey, this is a thing that another very large series is doing.
Right.
Maybe since we're trying to become more actiony, and that's a little bit more of an actiony game."
Mhm.
That's the only thing I can think of. I don't, I don't know.
I like so let's get into things. We did the story at least as far as we know so
Right,
far.
right,
I did play a little bit more of this one. I played about 2 hours of it. I am enjoying it. And I intend to play a lot more of it. But the good things about it. Okay, so there's good and bad things about everything that I like.
right. Okay,
That they did with the game. So good things. I like the inventory upgrade. I like that you don't just have 6 inventory slots. I get it. Survival horror. It is effective in the first few games. Excuse me. It is definitely effective. But I like that you feel a little bit more in control. You have like an attaché. You have like a suitcase that opens up for your inventory system and like a grid, and you can like move things around in it and like reposition them so that they fit in better and kind of like organize where all your stuff is. And you could do that to a point in the old games, but you still only had either 6 or 8 slots, depending on your character. Or in Resident Evil Zero, you had the 2 party system, so you could like stash things in the other player's inventory that you
right,
might need for
right.
a puzzle or whatever, and that's cool. But like I like that. Where the downfall is I don't fully understand it. There's like a secondary inventory off to the side that you don't have access to, and I think it's so you can throw things away. I don't think it's for storage because
I
I don't
honestly
know.
didn't notice what you're talking about, so I'm not. I have
Yeah.
no input here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can like move your cursor over to the right of the screen and another grid inventory system comes up, and I'm not quite 100% certain on what the purpose of
Key
that is.
items, maybe like items just for the
I don't
story
think
and that
so.
serve no other purpose.
Maybe
No.
because because the key items end up in your inventory, or they end up in a separate inventory.
Okay.
When you scroll through, because I remember one of the biggest set pieces a little bit later on is right after you meet the merchant for the first time. I'm not sure how far you got, but did you meet the merchant at
I
all?
did not. No.
Okay. Well, you fairly early on, I'd say maybe an hour and a half in, you meet the merchant for the first time, and you find out like what you can buy from him, and it's almost exactly like Village. If you've seen any gameplay of that,
Nope.
you can buy
Saving it until I
upgrades.
play it.
Right. You can buy upgrades for your weapons. You can buy weapons. You can sell items that you find. You can find valuables around the map and sell those for money, which you pick up a lot all over the place in the game. So that is that's interesting, that mechanic. So as far as the inventory system goes, I like that there's a shop. I think that's interesting. I don't know if they did it in the best possible way. I much prefer the way that they did it in Resident Evil Village from what I've seen, but I haven't played that game yet, so I'm not like 100% certain. But
Gotcha.
it's interesting. It's an interesting addition. Other things that I like about the gameplay. I enjoy the third person perspective. I think that's interesting. I don't know why it's still tank control. That is
I
what
disliked
clashes
it.
for me a little.
I
Yeah,
disliked it. You
well,
know
I feel
that
like you
you
should
made a
go one
complaint.
way or the other.
You made a complaint for I don't remember what game it was. It may have been Fallout or something like that, where you said that the
The
camera
characters,
position behind the player.
it's weird. Yeah.
And I
It,
feel like that's how Resident Evil 4 feels for me. The camera is
I felt that
positioned
too.
in a
Yeah.
very poor way. It's way
Hmm.
too close in most situations, and the camera is
Hmm.
clunky. And then you don't actually shoot down the center of the screen, you shoot diagonally.
Yes.
And so, like, when you're trying to shoot something up close, it ends up being close to the center, but anything far away, it becomes very hard to aim at. And
Yep.
the game recognizes this, and it gives you a little laser sight, at least on the pistol. I don't remember if it did with a shotgun or not, but
I think you can
the
buy it.
laser sight can be very hard to see at a distance. So
Hmm.
I actually did not like the camera perspective at all in this
Yeah.
game. I would have much preferred having a locked camera, the same as they did in Resident Evil, 1, 2, 3, 0.
Yeah. Well,
That or
that's the thing for me. Like, I completely agree. It's not polished. I understand what they were going for, and I think I like what they were going for in general. I played a little bit, just a tiny bit of the Resident Evil 2 remake,
Mhm.
and they do the same type of thing, but to much greater effect. It just feels so much smoother. It works. It actually functions like it's supposed to. It feels like a
Right.
modern game. You
Yeah.
know, that is what I think they were going for, but maybe they just didn't quite know how. Although I'm not sure why, because Super Mario 64, man,
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, but like for a
it was
shooter
out.
game, I I
Yeah.
I, I don't know exactly what year Resident Evil 4 came out.
Hmm.
So I don't know how many third-person shooters they had to go off of.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know whether they
Right.
deserve it or not, but I'm willing to give it to them from there.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
willing to give it to him, but I still think that personally, I would have preferred the locked camera system, even for modern Resident Evil
Hmm.
games. I'm in the minority. I understand, but I actually quite like locked cameras in a lot of games. I
Hmm.
preferred the locked camera in God of War, the original
Hmm.
games versus the third person one in the new God of War games. I
Okay.
in Resident Evil I prefer the locked camera instead of the one that follows you around in Resident Evil 4. Like
Mhm.
I do enjoy those cameras. I think it allows you to set up a level in a way that's much more it's able to give you all of the information you need without giving you too much because the developers are able to
Right.
hold more of that power in their hands of what you can and can't see.
Right.
And it eliminates the largest problem for the most part that a lot of games have, and that is
Hmm.
camera controls. So many games just
Yeah.
butcher the camera. That is one of the biggest complaints for a lot of games, even some of my favorites like Kingdom Hearts. A lot of people complain about the first couple games camera system.
Hmm.
And by having a
For good
locked
reason.
camera with a forced perspective, I feel like you are able to solve that in most situations. There are still
Yeah.
sometimes small problems, right? Like in God of War, I think it was 2. I can't remember it for sure though which one it was. I remember like there being an area where I couldn't quite see a creature that I was trying to fight because the locked camera was slightly obscured by a
Hmm.
wall or whatever it may be. So it's not perfect in every situation, but I feel like it's easier to do properly. And
Yeah.
so I definitely would have preferred that they had just left it like that. And then
Hmm.
the whole trying to turn this into an action 3D shooter sort of deal.
Hmm.
I think the gunplay just doesn't feel as good as it did in Resident Evil the original trilogy, which is
Yeah.
weird because it was pretty
Very
poor in
clunky.
those games, let's be honest. But it
Right.
just feels
Hmm.
very clunky and
Hmm.
I just don't care for it. It's a little too stiff, a little bit too hard to aim. I
Hmm.
don't think they have auto aim, which for a PC player like me playing on a controller, I
Hmm.
appreciate auto aim on controllers where like if you're
Right.
close to something, it'll snap to a position.
Hmm.
Because since I've stopped playing on console for the most part, I just am not very
Hmm.
good at shooters with a controller.
Right. Right.
So it's a
Hmm.
bit hard to aim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about this one, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm on the
it's like
fence.
it's like for me, like I appreciate what they were trying to do. They were trying to do something fresh and new, but at the same time, I think they maybe went a little too hard, too fast.
Mm.
Like, and I can understand why someone that was playing this when it came out would have been really impressed, you know, because this was this feels like such a big jump. It feels like
So
a jump in technology or something, you know.
when was
But
it that people started getting mad at the series? Was it Resident Evil 4 or 5?
five.
Okay, okay.
Most people consider 4 to be one of the best
Mm.
in the franchise, other
Okay,
than 2 and 3. Like, 2
okay.
and 3 are always heralded as, like, the absolute best, and then 4 is, like, right there with it, and then it just kinda tapers off after that,
Right.
except for the new ones. The new ones, of course, are very well received.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about those
Um,
ones. And I'm hoping by, 7, 8 and the remakes of 2 and 3, I'm hoping by then they would have
mhm.
gotten this whole 3D action game thing down.
Yes,
But
very
it
much
took
so. Well,
them long enough though. Like requiring
7
4,
and 8,
5, 6, so
yeah.
requiring 3 games to figure out the formula seems a
Yeah.
little ridiculous, but
I mean, to be fair, there's also like spin-offs in between all of that. There's the two Revelations games. There's a ton of
yeah.
DLC for all of that. Code Veronica, which was another fixed camera game that happened on the PS2 that apparently
Right.
we skipped.
Oh, whoops.
It was similar to Zero. I believe it follows Chris and Claire Redfield. And it's Code Veronica. That's one of those. But so yeah, you have the two Revelations. You have 5 and 6. You have a ton of other like spin-offs and different things like that that all utilize that third-person action type thing. But 7 and 8 are actually first-person horror.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, yeah, I don't
which
know.
is
I feel like
interesting.
I may actually prefer that. I would be a little
Mhm.
weird in my mind playing a Resident Evil game first person, but
Right.
I do think I may prefer that at least to the
I
implementation here.
I think yeah, I would
Yeah.
prefer that to this. games because
Yeah.
there's so much. Some of the set piece I was talking about right after you meet the merchant for the first time has this big cavern sort of thing, like you're standing on bridges over top of a big gorge,
Yeah.
and there's just 30 or 40 enemies, and they're all equipped with knives, axes, molotovs. They can throw the axes and the molotovs at you, so they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
projectiles, and it's like that. This is crazy, and you have a full clip in your gun plus another 10 to 20 bullets. So like if you weren't very careful to pick up all the valuables and all the money before you go to the merchant to get some kind of gun upgrade, you're gonna have to just run and gun it through the whole thing
Right. Right.
and waste all of your ammo and all of your stuff, which doesn't feel survival to me. That
And
doesn't feel like survival horror.
speaking of the collecting part of the game too, can I just spend a second to complain about how 90% of the collectibles you find are hidden inside boxes or barrels that you have to break open?
Yeah.
I got so annoyed just every few minutes having to stop, aim my knife slightly downwards or upwards, and hit a box to break it open. Like, why couldn't I have just hit the X button and then an animation just played of him
Box.
just like
Yeah.
automatically swinging and breaking it open and taking whatever, or just have it sitting on the shelf? Like,
'Cause
not
they do
everybody in
that
the world is going to have their money in a wooden box that can't be opened. Like,
because they
who
also
is?
do like animations for action sequences. Like you can kick people in the face when
Yeah,
they get
yeah, do
close
like
to
a
you.
roundhouse kick. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, or you can like jump through a window or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
So like why not have that? Why
And
why is
speaking,
my secondary weapon the knife, and why is it that I can't count how many times I was trying to shoot something and I accidentally hit the knife button instead.
yeah,
And
the
I just
controls are
swung my
weird.
knife for no reason.
And speaking of that, like, this game is tank control-y. Like, it's not the exact same tank controls that you have in other games, but it's very similar
Yeah.
to
Just
tank
weird.
controls in other games. And then having that mixed with the third-person camera is a little bit awkward. But the thing that I did want to say though is you mentioned like jumping through windows, and that makes me think of one positive thing that I can actually say about this game. While the exploration is not as open as it was in like 1, 2, 3, whatever, you're walking down a lot more corridors, which better or worse, I guess it depends on the person. But what I will say is the local exploration for like each little area that you're in, there are some unique things. Like one of the first little towns that you get to, if you jump out of the right window, you'll land on a platform, which then you can walk around to get to the roofs of a couple different buildings and collect extra items and things. You know, it's not something
Right.
that you have to do for any reason, at least not that I saw, but it was just a little exploration thing that you could do. And there are a lot of hidden consumables and collectibles all over the place, which is nice. You know, it's nice to have little side things for you to do and collect and all that. I just wish the collecting aspect was, like we discussed, a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, not so
Right.
tedious.
Right. So basically, and here's another gripe that is really nitpicky. Why is the currency called Batas or whatever? Why
Yeah, is that
gold?
like, I
Gold.
don't know
Gold.
what
Why not
what's
gold?
the currency of Spain called?
I don't
Do you know?
Probably not that though. I don't like just gold. It's gold. You have 3,800 gold. There you go. Like why not? Why? I get why not calling it dollars, but for some reason I feel like in this local economy they're not up to date, with whatever the currency happens to be in Spain.
Before the euro, it was, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, I'm sure, but peseta,
Okay.
Peseta.
Okay.
So maybe like PTAS was the singular version of that or something.
Or
I
abbreviated maybe.
It's something, I don't know. That's the only thing
Why
I
not?
can think of.
Why not? Or just a symbol? It's so nitpicky. Like
Right.
it doesn't have a bearing on the game. Nobody cares. But like just gold. It's gold. Gold.
Yeah,
You have gold.
yeah, honestly.
Okay. Like that's what it looks like. It looks like a little box of gold coins every time you find it.
Yeah.
A little box of gold coins. So you have gold. I don't get it, but whatever. So yeah. That's it. That's Resident Evil 4.
Well, I mean, on top of that, though, I will.
Yeah.
I did want to just mention the voice acting.
Oh yeah.
Still pretty poor in my opinion.
That's
Which,
her,
like, at
I
this
think.
point, I feel like should have been a little bit better. Right? They had
Right.
at
Yeah.
least 4 other
Right.
games to master voice acting, and they haven't. And while early PS2 games, a lot of them didn't have great voice acting, a lot of games did at that point too have really good voice acting.
Back from Daxter.
Yeah, yeah. Final Fantasy 10 is another one that had just phenomenal voice acting. Everybody's going to point, I'm sure if they comment on this, to the stupid laughing meme from Final Fantasy X, but that makes perfect sense. If you ever played the game, it was supposed to be forced and horrible. The actual voice acting in that game is amazing. And
Okay.
so there's a
I'll take your
lot
word
of
for
good...
it.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I've never played that one or
It's a
seen the
good
game
game.
you
We'll have
referred
to play it one of these days. But anyways, yeah, I'm just surprised that the voice acting was still as bad as it
to. Mhm.
was. Because just like why?
Right.
But I mean, yeah. Other than that, I don't know. It's a Resident Evil game, I guess. I miss the zombies. I miss the more puzzly open nature of Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 0. But
Right.
it's fine. Like I'm sure I'll come back and play this one at some point because I want to beat the whole series eventually. So after I beat like 3 and 0, I'll probably come back and play this one. But I'm in no rush to do so either. So
It looks a little cleaner from what I'm seeing of your footage. The textures in the version that I played on PS Now, which was a port of the PS3 HD remake.
yeah,
Well, remaster.
right.
It was a remaster, an HD remaster. The textures look exposed. They look pretty bad. It's passable at least like this. If you were playing this on an old on a CRT on SD, you know what I mean, it would look
Yeah,
decent.
yeah.
But when you blow it up and you're looking at those low res textures and all their glory, it's looking pretty rough.
Right.
But what I can say, like, that is also kind of a step down because I'm sorry, I'm watching the footage and you just got beamed in the temple with an axe. But something that's good about the first Resident Evil games on the old system is that they used a lot of baked graphics because they had fixed camera.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they were able to make a lot of the stuff that you see look real crisp.
Yeah.
Especially
Much nicer than it had any business doing for the time that it was released.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the player models and sound design and all the voice acting and things like that suffered a lot because of the
Which,
limitations of the time.
might I
But
say though, on the PlayStation, you had no real reason to have bad voice acting or anything like that.
no, not
Because
really.
the PlayStation supported CD audio. So
Quality
while
audio,
that did take up a lot of disk space, obviously, you could literally have perfect audio if you
Right.
wanted to.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah.
They didn't have a real excuse, but I can understand that like voice acting was new to games.
Yes.
So maybe voice actors didn't quite know how to pull that off because when you have animation, you have a set script, right?
Right.
But when you're voice acting for a video game, you have dialogue trees and things that are more complicated like that. And when the games at the time weren't very cinematic, they may not have known how to play it off, or what they ended up presenting in the game didn't look exactly like their performance should match up to it because the performer didn't know what the end result was going to look like. So they didn't really know how to stage that. So I can make excuses for back then, but during this era it starts to get harder.
Yeah. It certainly does.
It's getting harder to make.
But I mean, I don't think I have anything else really to say about it. It's same sort of recommendation that I had for Silent Hill too, right? If you enjoy the series, then of course play it. It's not a bad game. I just think it's a step down from its predecessors, personally.
Yeah, it has enough. It has enough novelty for me, just because of the things about it that are different, that keep me interested. You know, like I am interested in what else this game has to offer. What else is new about this game that I'm going to encounter? Because I'm not too fussed about like the clunky controls because you can get used to it after a certain amount of time. Just not quite as quickly as the older ones. Because the older ones, you just literally like you lock yourself in fight mode and then you just pan up or down to get a low shot or a headshot.
Right.
So it was pretty easy to defend yourself. But now they're trying to incorporate more because this is the new generation, and kind of misses the mark. You can't shoot people in the leg though. You can shoot people in the leg and you can shoot them in the arm. I'm chuckling a little bit that you're fighting two identical character models.
Yeah.
At the same time on the footage here, but
it's a masterpiece here.
Yeah, you can shoot people in the leg and they go down. That's interesting and something that they ended up incorporating at a village. So I think that is just pretty cool, man.
Real quick before we sign off, how much is Village like a direct ripoff of 4 here then, or like?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's not. It's a direct equal to 7. So it feels like it makes more sense. It makes more sense for what is happening to be happening. You play as Ethan again. Ethan is always stuck in a situation like he's stuck in, you know? So you, Ethan is looking for his lost daughter, kind of like Silent Hill.
Okay.
And you get taken away. You don't
Okay.
go to the village.
Okay.
You get captured and taken to
Okay.
the village, and then you are exploring the village trying to survive. And it
So it's
has
not Resident Evil 4 then, it just was heavily inspired by 4.
yeah. If you
Okay.
play Village or even watch footage of Village being played right after this, it's almost impossible to say that it was not an unofficial remake of Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
It's like it's the same vibe, it's the same kind of setting. You have almost identical mechanics as far as like, what items do, how your inventory works, how the currency system works, what you are able to purchase, the kind of puzzles that you encounter, all of that kind of stuff
Gotcha.
is directly lifted from this game, but I think that they made it fit better in the
Okay.
universe.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for Resident Evil 4. That's all I got, at least.
Yeah, pretty much same here. You can find us if you are interested on all of our personal channels and different things like that in the description underneath of the videos or your podcast provider of choice. Of course, go ahead and check us out. Christian is going to be doing some pretty interesting things. He's a man on a mission right now.
Yeah.
He's on a
Yeah.
mission to collect every PlayStation 2 game that has ever been released in our continent.
Yes, in North
And
America.
then he's
Yeah.
and
Very
then he's gonna
important
play 'em
point
all.
because there's like 3,600 games or 3,400 games or something like
Right.
that worldwide.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
that crazy. So,
Right.
so just North America. I have a small collection of them already and more on the way. And I was thinking of like, what is my favorite console? And because I've always wanted to have a complete set of some sort of console because I like collecting video games. And my favorite's PS2. Just looking back on it, it has to be PS2. So while it's not necessarily the best console to start collecting for, if anybody's interested in doing the same sort of thing, it's the one nearest and dearest to my heart. So it's the one that I decided to go for. And since I have this channel and I've always wanted to stream video games, that's what I'm gonna do. As I get the video games and things, I'm going to stream them. Probably not until completion, just an hour or two of them, unless I really up enjoying them or the stream really ends up enjoying them. Then I'll spend more time, of course. But yeah, look forward to that, and I'll have more updates, of course, on stream, probably on my own Twitter and our website. So
All right. Well, that is pretty much all we have for today. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. As always, you don't have to, but you do, and we greatly appreciate it. So until next time, everybody have a good, happy Halloween, I guess. Well,
yeah,
when this episode releases, it won't be Halloween anymore.
yeah.
But
But for everybody
for
in the
everyone
stream,
on the stream, have a happy Halloween.
and thank you for joining us for the Halloween special. We hope you enjoyed all the games that we did this year, and we're always looking for new recommendations for specials for like Halloween and specifically right now Christmas, because that's going to be right around the corner, and we like to do a Christmas special as well. So if anybody can think of any Christmassy themed sort of things, then please do let us know. We'd be happy to hear from you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.